Welcome. I am Jay Rosenthal. I'm here with Anna Ray Grabstein and Jeremy Burke. This is a joint production called This Week in Cannabis Live between Cultivated, High Spirits, and Cannabis Musings. Although Cannabis Musings and Mark Hauser, he's not here today. But I'm sure he has thoughts about what's going on. And we'll get his thoughts next week. Welcome, Anna Ray and Jeremy.
Good morning.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I feel like because none of us were actually in the room at the DEA hearings, like, did they really actually happen? And of course they did. Now they are over, and now it's like a waiting game. I know, Jeremy, you've been talking to folks that were in the room. I've been talking to folks in the room. Anna Ray, you've been talking to folks in the room. Do we have any idea, knowing that none of the three of us are lawyers, like, are we going to hear something one day, or is it going to be like dragged on forever? Anybody have any thoughts?
They did announce there's a date of August 17th that additional briefings are due to the judge.
Right.
So that's something. So I would say that it's going to be a minimum of a month from today before there's any more progress. And then after that, no, we don't know. And I'm okay with that. These hearings were historic, and some really interesting stuff was said on the record, and it's progress.
Yeah. And Jeremy, you've written about, and we had on Natalie Fertig and Gary Kaminsky over time.
Yeah.
And Mark talking about this too on this show, that it's really about setting a record to file a lawsuit later. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So we sent Natalie to the courtroom. She's a veteran journalist and knows kind of how these hearings work and how federal agencies work. One of the things that clued her into that conclusion was the fact that the DEA was really not cross-examining witnesses so much. They had a very particular angle in mind, and they would only ask witnesses like 2 or 3 questions max and give back all the time, right? And so, that's a sign of 2 things, and this is sort of reporter speculation and not actually reported, so take it with a grain of salt, but it's a sign of 2 things. One is that the DEA has a relatively simple job to prove, which is that there is just one medical use of cannabis and that cannabis has not directly killed anyone. That is enough to get it off Schedule 3, plus the very fact that the White House, Donald Trump himself, wants this, which means, while it's not a foregone conclusion how the ALJ will rule, it is a strong suspicion that they will move it to Schedule 3 relatively soon, whether that's after August 17th or before September 17th, we don't know, but it is coming. The second piece of that is, the opposition, those opposed to rescheduling, really use the hearing as a way to get on the record for an appeal in federal court, all the risks they see with cannabis use, all the downsides to Schedule 3, to set up an appeal of which they are already pursuing. And so, it is very likely an outcome of this that we do see the ALJ rule to Schedule 3. It's possible Schedule 2, he has that ability to do that, but it's likely we'll see Schedule 3, and then it is very likely we'll see this tangled up in federal courts for a while, unfortunately.
That jives with your take as well, Anna Ray?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I guess my question is, and I don't know the answer. Obviously, I don't know the answer. Nothing's been more obvious than me not knowing the answer. But like, the lawsuits are coming for sure. Will there be a stay of the ALJ's ruling if it is Schedule 3, or will there not be a stay? Like, that seems to be a big inflection point. The timing notwithstanding, which could drag on a very long time. I mean, the briefs are due August 17th, but like, maybe then we know when a ruling is being made and what happens after that. It just seems to me it also bleeds very closely into election season. Impacts it ? In some way. I am also yesterday, and Anna Ray, I know you watched. I don't know if you watched our webinar yesterday that we did with Moby and Jeremy and Graham Farrar from Glasshouse said he has PTSD from all the things that could have happened in cannabis that haven't. So he's planning on things that have happened, which is Schedule 3 for medical cannabis. Everything else is everything else, which I thought was actually a pretty good take, which leads to my thought that whatever the least expected thing to happen out of this hearing is, maybe the thing we should expect. To be honest,
yeah. What is the least expected thing?
Honestly, if
but it works.
No, the least expected thing from my perspective, even based on what Jeremy said, what you've said, what lawyers said, what the DEA's role in this hearing was, what might happen with lawsuits, that for some time, adult use cannabis remains on Schedule 1. And Schedule 3 is medical cannabis, and everybody deals with that for some time until there's some legislative.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because going into the hearing, that was what I thought was the most expected outcome, because I have spent 20 years being skeptical about policy change as a result of it just not moving. And then once the hearing started, I started to think, oh, actually the most expected outcome is that this is going to work and that adult use is going to become Schedule 3. So it's been a moving target the entire time.
Yeah, and then actually there was a story today, I think it was today, that I read in Marijuana Moment about PAC funding for Trump-affiliated super PACs, and that there's been millions of dollars from some very big cannabis companies, which is fine. And the way they have positioned the PAC fundraising, because they quoted some of the fundraising, is that this is done. That's my words, right? Like cannabis reform for cannabis medical research for veterans is done, and now give us money because, policy goal achieved. I am fearful that is the box to be checked, which has been checked, and which is not ideal for the industry right now. And so if they believe that the policy goal is done, I am fearful that Schedule 1 is where adult use cannabis will be. I don't want that. That's what I'm fearful of.
Yeah.
So again, you scooped my winner, which is the America First Agricultural Action PAC. And the details on what's happened is that this is a Trump-linked PAC that pocketed $11.5 million from cannabis companies in a single month. And the way that looks is that $2.5 million were deposited from Trulieve, Curaleaf, Verano, and Green Thumb. And then Air and Ascend Wellness also chipped in more like $500,000 and $1 million each. And this is, to me, a signal that it's a deposit to make sure that it gets done. So I would see this as not a Schedule 1 for medical was enough, but that let's take this to the finish line, please.
Oh, hold on.
Oop, did I?
No, that was me.
I thought I messed something up there.
I was pressing too many buttons.
Yeah.
I just yes, and kudos to that PAC for shaking down the industry appropriately. I guess my words. And taking advantage of this policy. This is the thing. The policy goal they think they achieved. Right? Promise made, promise kept. I mean, I want to, whatever the opposite of wishcast is, being super pessimistic. But what are some other outcomes that we could envision, Jeremy?
I mean, I was just going to say, like, to your question, Jay, there are a lot of outcomes from this, right? Like, cannabis could be Schedule 3, a court challenge could fail, and this could be wrapped up relatively quickly. That is, rose-colored glasses, best case scenario. The ALJ himself, the judge does have the power to keep it Schedule 1 or Schedule 2, right? Like that is within, his remit and the DEA's remit. Ultimately, it flows to the DEA administrator to make the rule, but like those are possible outcomes as well. And so, we don't know till we know. I know that's the worst thing to say in cannabis, but it is very true, right? This is how the federal sausage is made. It is an awkward spot the DEA is in, sort of arguing against its decades and decades of funded war on drugs to say like, oh, whoops, we made a mistake about this particular drug, right? And so, that does give me a little pessimism, but at the same time, Trump wants this, the science is pretty clear on why cannabis does not belong in Schedule 1. And so, the rational view still, I think, is that recreational cannabis does go to Schedule 3. It's just going to be fits and starts to get there. There's going to be a fight. There's going to be a court battle. There might be a stay. That is a very realistic outcome. But, I will kind of, put it on record that I think it gets there. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah, you're not predicting a timeline. You're just betting on Kalshi that it'll get there.
It'll get there. Yeah, I don't know. The odds in Kalshi will give you a timeline, and that I don't know yet. So,
did you have unrelated? Did you see this Kalshi story about the teleprompter operator for the president, who has been making
Yeah.
in the president's speeches, and
Yeah.
he's only made $100,000. Like, did you see that? Like, he knows what's in the speech, betting on the speech, and still can't capitalize on it because the president's so erratic, which actually fits back to the first point that he thinks he's actually done this job.
Is Kalshi tracking this? And are we tracking what Kalshi is predicting?
They are. Yeah, they do have rescheduling odds. I will look it up right now.
Yeah.
Sucker bet right there.
Let's see. Yeah, so
well, you'll know it's going to happen when
I'll tell you right now. So before January 20th, 2029 is 75%. Before 2028 is 67%. Before 2027 is 24%. The before 2028 seems 24%. Yeah.
Oh wow. So
yeah.
Anyway, when the Trump sons and Howard Lutnick's sons start betting on this, start putting money on Kalshi, that's when you know what's going to happen. If you see those numbers move very quickly one day, know it's either going to happen or not going to happen. That would be my.
Yeah. But look, these prediction markets tend to be pretty correct about things. As much as you don't, the business can be a little bit icky, but they are correct most of the time. So those are good odds to go by.
Fair enough. So read those again, Jared, if you could. 24%, 20.
Yeah, hold on one second. Just close the tab. It is so 75% before January 20th, 2029, 67% before 2028, and 24% before 2027. So this year.
Well, then I also wonder. That lends itself to other. Oh, here we go. Can I put this up? Oh yeah, I'm gonna put this. Hold on, give me 1 sec. I'll just share.
Sure.
I'll share. You didn't share, but Anna rated. Hold on.
I'm wondering how much has actually been bet. Can you see on Kalshi how much money has been put on this?
Like the volume.
Is
that's
that
a good question.
Amount of money that people have put down? Because that shows it's $7.1 million.
Where I haven't actually betted.
Bottom left of the chart.
Total volume. Huh.
Oh yeah, there it is.
And you can bet in 24 and 77 cent increments. Pretty interesting.
Okay, so we're going to start tracking this. It's going to be on the top of every newsletter between now and January 20th, 2029. But I also,
it could be. Yeah.
Another thing that happened in this week, which doesn't necessarily fit into what Kalshi's talking about, although maybe it does, is that Democrats in the Senate, I guess, this is the most Chuck Schumer move, so I'm just assuming it's the Senate, introduced yesterday? Something they've introduced many, many times before, CAOA. I forget what we're calling it. CAOA, which does not.
CAOA.
They can't even come up with a good acronym that could make it like can something or,
something
resolution
cuter.
420. Yeah, Jeremy, you posted this in our Slack channel. Give us a little rundown of this and what we're.
So this act has been introduced by Democrats before. Chuck Schumer has led it. More power to Senator Schumer for actually trying to do something on cannabis policy, but eventually we're going to judge the outcome, not the intent. And so with that, we're left a little bit wanting. At the same time, one interesting new wrinkle in the bill is a vehicle to set up hemp-derived THC regulations rather than a ban. And so this is at least a way for Democrats to show that they're attacking that problem. And look, I don't think this act fully descheduling cannabis has any room to run in the Senate. Again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. At the same time, I do think, maybe this is some start of a bipartisan negotiation around coming up with hemp-derived THC rules, right? Montana Senator Tim Sheehy also said the same thing. He said, look, to a group of hemp farmers and a trade group, said, look, there is some bipartisan effort and push to replace the hemp ban with age gating and traditional beverage regulation and rules. And so it's certainly possible that, maybe it's a starting point for that. However, the full bill has not received, since it's been introduced multiple times, has never received a full floor vote in the Senate, likely won't now, but potentially, the hemp carve-out could be interesting.
That will be interesting to watch, and I'm sure Ben and has lots of things to say about that. Anna Ray, what are you hearing from your sources on this?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone thinks that this bill has much of a chance, but the content of the bill is relevant and important. And this bill would require the FDA to finally do its job. It would get TTV involved in regulation. I think it lays out a forward path that if true legalization beyond adult use under Schedule 3 will ever move forward, if the descheduling reality that so many people in the industry say that they want ever comes true, there are elements of this bill that create a skeleton of what would be needed for something like that to happen. And so I think that it's an interesting moment when we're having the Schedule 3 conversations to bring this conversation back. And the addition of this hemp language, I agree with you, Jeremy, is notable in the face of this massive amount of lobbying that's going on in DC right now by the hemp industry to try to get something done before their November 12th ban. And what I'm seeing when I see this is that this isn't only coming from Republicans. The Democrats now are also saying that something should be done for hemp. And this is a deschedule bill. And I think that, this is ultimately what the industry wants and has been asking for. It adds a lot of complexity as it relates to the way that social justice and harms of the war on drugs should or will be repaired under a bill like this. It creates a entire tax schedule that would be very intense and challenging, I think, in the face of the state level taxes. Based on the taxes that are proposed in this bill, they could vary, but it's anywhere, I think, from like 5% to 25%. And then when you look at what that would mean on top of state taxes that are at the low end, 10%, at the high end, 40%. I mean, you could look at cannabis, yes, being descheduled and being legal, but also being taxed at 70%. So there's a lot of complexity when we look at the ultimate destination that many people in the industry say that they want, and what that would mean in reality, which is lots more taxes. All of a sudden, the FDA and TTB are inside your company with you. So there's a lot here.
It actually factors into something. Jeremy and I held a webinar yesterday with our friends at Moby, and we had Canadian operators, we had Canadian plus international operators, we had Verano, and we had Glasshouse. And something that Raj Grover from High Tide, which is a cannabis retailer here in Canada, he said something that I think factors in. You did a good segue, Anna Ray, and you stepped on my segue, even though I stepped on your winners. I want to play what Raj said. Here we go.
Canada's taught us that legalization does not necessarily mean successful automatically happen for companies. And Mike and myself, we've lived through this in Canada. So, everybody got excited and they built a whole bunch of cultivation. There was so much capital that flowed in. And everybody forgot about basics, which was profitability. And when I looked around, a province like Ontario, there's no distance requirements, right? You could open dispensaries across the street, which is literally ridiculous. There's no money to be made there. So we saw that coming early, and we wanted to go with a highly differentiated strategy. 6 years ago, I started piloting in 3 different provinces in Canada. What happens if we focus on volumes, drop the margins, because cannabis is commoditized. And I speak about this from personal experience. And so we piloted how we choose real estate, which is our anchored real estate strategy, again, highly differentiated. We piloted, given all the data that we had, 70% of cannabis consumers, even today, care strictly about price as a value proposition. So we chose to go in a totally different direction where everybody else was headed. We knew if we follow the herd, we're going to get slaughtered. Thank God we didn't do that. We launched a discount club model after some very successful pilots that we did for about a year. So we had all the data to prove that. And then today it's become a winning proposition.
I mean, they made some interesting moves along the way, but his point is well received as part of this conversation is that just because these regulatory things may happen, there may be interesting, and I'm using that in the most broad word, interesting tax structures, more regulations. Business may get harder before it gets easier. They may be more ability to make more profit, but it's going to be more difficult to get profitable. And there may be more competition. Like, I think it is a lesson well learned here that just because these things might happen does not mean your shitty business is going to be great.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I think that broadly, when I think about descheduling and what that could mean for the industry, in addition to all of the regulatory and financial things that we've just touched on that are in this bill, I do think that it would be a substantive move in the right direction of shutting down the illicit market in a way that has been challenging within the state by state model. So that would be something that I would be watching.
One of the things that I just thought about, because I'm a genius, is that maybe we need to sort of start thinking about how we say these things, right? Like it's rescheduled, yes, but also federally regulated. Like it's two sides of the same coin potentially. That federally it gets rescheduled or descheduled, but rescheduled and then regulated federally, which is a burden that I'm not sure lots of companies are ready for, which you sort of referenced, and maybe especially not the adult use ones, to comply with federal regulations around food and drugs or manufacturing or any of these things. It's going to add another layer of regulation that is challenging. Anna Ray, you work with more operators. Like, are they ready for that?
Some are, absolutely. And I will say, when it comes to regulatory compliance, I do think that AI has been one of the biggest unlocks in this particular area of business, because the ability to generate process, documentation, SOPs, and things is so much easier now with AI. And a lot of businesses have been upping their game in a big way. But yeah, there's plenty that aren't ready. But I think that those are the businesses that aren't going to be ready for taxes either, and that they're probably benefiting from a lot of the immaturity that the market is existing in today. But I think broadly it will be a good thing for businesses, for stability, for investors, all of those things.
Fair enough. I'm going to start using that term, federally regulated. That is the outcome that everybody's sort of waiting for. It just changes.
Is really the big question. When the FDA shows up to the table, because the invitation is open today already, and the FDA cannabis does not fit into what they're used to doing, and they don't know how to handle it.
Two other things. One, and we don't have to dwell on this, but Pennsylvania again, did not put legalization or anything really in their budget. And I know, Anna Ray, you hate Governor Shapiro for this. You've mentioned that before. You've called him a loser. No, he was one of your losers one time. It doesn't surprise me. Pennsylvania politics, we're learning more and more about. It is cutthroat. It is evenly divided. It is a very purple state. I just don't know if that portends to how other Republicans view this outside of Pennsylvania, but it's certainly not in the budget this year again, even though they could certainly use the money. All the states surrounding them are legal. They seem to have a rational sort of approach to most things, but can't get this one off the ground. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's the Democrats have to win back the Pennsylvania state legislature for anything to happen. And until then, it's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Shapiro is a pretty effective governor by all, senses. And he's good at getting what he wants. At the same time, there is just deep Republican obstinance. Despite, Donald Trump at the top within state houses, there's just deep obstinance to cannabis regulation, and Pennsylvania is the same. And so they're going to just keep bumping up against the rock until, the Democrats take back the House. Now, again, to your point, it's not to say the Democrats are going to write perfect legislation that makes all these businesses thrive. They're absolutely not going to do that based on recent experience, but, it's better than the status quo, for every business. And so it's an incremental gain that, we're all looking at.
Yeah. The H word is extreme. So I'm sorry to Governor Shapiro, but here's the thing. I actually appreciate this, because I believe in accepting reality and not being in denial about something that is not going to happen. And I think that it has been overly optimistic that legalization has ended up in the budget over the last few sessions in Pennsylvania and then not gotten over the finish line. So this shows that there is a healthy amount of acceptance of reality that under the current state and current circumstances, this is not moving forward anymore.
Yeah.
And that in order for this to move forward, the Democrats need to control more seats. And if and when that happens, then I think it will be back on the table.
I like it.
Yeah, fair point.
It is now time on the program for everybody's favorite segment. That's the intro for winners and losers. Is everybody ready for winners and losers?
Yeah.
All right. Jeremy, you're going to go first.
All right. So my winner, I laugh because it's the DEA. They did the hearing. They did it. You know, I'm loath to give the DEA credit. They were told to do this hearing. They did the hearing. It is now over. Well done, DEA. I guess I never thought I'd ever say that. At the same time, I have heard the DEA museum is very cool where they held the hearing. So, someday we'll do a cultivated road trip and go visit that.
Well, the day we can broadcast from their media room, that would be really something.
Yeah, I just want the jacket. I just think the jackets are sick, even though I'd probably get eggs thrown at me if I wore it, but it's a cool jacket.
I think eggs would be the least that happens to you.
Right. So yeah, I mean, if they pursue cannabis reform, I will wear the jacket proudly. I will not actually. No, on second thought. My loser this week, and again, this is a very simple loser, is smart approaches to marijuana. I think, they fought the good fight in the hearing. I think, from all intents and purposes, it did not go very well for them. And I do think that, cannabis policy does need real credible opposition. Like, there are risks associated with legalization, and good policy, captures the upsides and minimizes the benefits. And that opposition is no longer smart approaches to marijuana. And I think one thing, at least, I'm a little bit heartened by in the hearing was that states brought other credible medical professionals who have, much more, who may be against cannabis reform, but have much more data-driven, nuanced views. And so I hope we can have a real discussion with them and not continue to have discussions with organizations like Smart Approaches to Marijuana, which are polemicists disguised as advocacy groups. So that's my loser for the week.
I like it. Wow. We're going to clip that. Anna Ray, winners, losers?
Oh, I'll bring it home to my local hometown of San Francisco for a winner. Amsterdam style cafes that introduce like food, beverage, and music with cannabis are finally going to be allowed here. And this is so many years after legalization. The Board of Supervisors finally is allowing this coming together of hospitality and entertainment with cannabis. And that is hopefully a win. A lot of people are saying that that this will bring some new life into the dispensaries and give them some new revenue streams. But ultimately, I think it's about the culture. In San Francisco, people think about Haight Street and the Summer of Love and Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin and everything that happened here in the 60s and 70s. And so I'm just excited to get to have music and weed all together in one place. So, yeah.
That seems more likely we could do a show from there than the DEA museum.
Yeah, totally. And my other winner I mentioned is this PAC that has just raked in a whole bunch of cash in the last month. And I think on the other side of that is that the losers are all of these cannabis companies that are just working so hard, but they don't have enough money to be thrown at the government right now, so they just don't have a say in politics.
That's Citizens United right there. I like it. I have a winner and a loser. My winner is actually the same as last week. And that is Melissa Henry from Kiva Confections. We had her on this week to talk about her Conan adventure. It was a great conversation. We got really granular about how she heard it was being talked about, exactly what they did internally, how they actually executed by getting to Sona on the show. But it was also interesting because she happens to live right there. Melissa does. So the parking lot where apparently Conan O'Brien's show is, where you park, is actually the same parking lot as where her kids go to the dentist. So there was some funny things happening. So kudos to Melissa and her team for that. I'm going to redo that winner loser just to be self-promotional about something we actually did on Cultivated. You can watch that. It's got a lot of views. So check out that conversation. My loser is Idaho legislators, which might be a standing loser if that's the case. So there was a petition to legalize cannabis, like a signature petition. The signatures did not pass. They were like 12,000 short. And it almost didn't matter because simultaneously the legislature there, I don't even know if there's a Democrat in the legislature in Idaho. I honestly have no idea. Passed a law that suggested that the legislature can only legalize cannabis in any drug in any way. So they're the losers. Don't at me, Idaho legislatures on Twitter. I'm sure they watch this religiously. So that's my loser of the week. My winner of the week is Melissa again, and all of you. You guys are both winners.
You're a winner too, Jay. I was gonna say that actually. Number one.
No, you weren't.
You're doing such a good job.
I will do a tease here for the, I don't know, several dozen people watching now, but a couple hundred that will watch along line. Jeremy and I next week, a little teaser. We're launching what we're calling Cultivated Community. It'll be very easy to join. It'll be an ongoing feed featuring sort of things we find during the day, other conversations we want to have. You'll be able to find it on our website. If you get our newsletter, you'll get prompted to go join it. It'll be super fun. Anna Ray, you're going to get the first invite right after this show. And yeah, we will see everybody there. But that's a teaser because it's not officially launched yet. But if you actually go to cultivated.news/community, you should be able to find it right now. And we will see everybody there. And we'll see everybody next Friday.
Sweet. So good to see you guys.
Nice to see you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Find everything we do at cultivated.news. You can find Anna Ray at High Spirits wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find Jeremy on Twitter. He's great on Twitter. He likes to get in
Twitter doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
It's
He likes to get in X fights. So you should go check him out there.
Come battle me.
All right. Bye.